I've recently been referring to myself as a monster. Just very, I guess you could say your proverbial rut, but that's not really doing it justice. I'm just stuck. I've never really grown up. Things have always been fairly easy for me, and a saying that I've coined is when you can have anything you want, it makes it hard to have it to, excuse me, when you can have anything you want, it makes it hard to want anything. And it's been about 15 years since I've wanted anything, and I don't know even back then if I've ever wanted anything. Obviously this will progress and it'll make more sense as time goes on, but a lot of big events have happened in my life which normally would have given somebody the opportunity or pointed them in the direction of change and made them appreciate life, and I've had a number of those big events in my life. Business losses, house foreclosures, death of my father. I've had every opportunity given to me to succeed, and I've had every opportunity given to me to fail. And ultimately I just chose the middle ground, and that's basically a slow death. And not really as the result of anything in particular, but for the last 5 years, actually probably the last 10 years, I coined a term a long time ago after I lost a business of mine. My mom came to me and asked me, what's going to make me happy? What's going to stop me from pursuing all the wrong things in life? And my answer to her was broke, homeless, and hungry. And I always felt that everything was, when I was a child, everything was handed to me for the wrong reasons. And as I got older, because of the particular childhood that I had, I learned how to manipulate and how to sell. And I haven't had a boss since I was probably 19 or 20 years old. I've always worked for myself in one way or another. And broke, homeless, and hungry was the answer that I gave her, and that was 10 years ago. And at that time I set out on a journey and was intending to drive as far as my money would take me and land wherever I landed and do things for myself and try to put the past behind me and start making peace and moving on with my life. Well, every single time I do that, I've done that many times, and every single time I do that, I land on my feet very easily. And again, I have a tendency to take life for granted, and I'm really sick and tired of being sick and tired. So with that said, I'm going to start basically by kind of taking you around my house and talking and showing how I live and what kind of a mess I live in and what I do and how I do it. And as this thing progresses, I think it'll make more sense as we go along. So here's my house. I'm going to finish smoking this cigarette, and actually I'm going to light another cigarette and walk you around my house. So smoking in the house, that's something that is rather on the repulsive side, but as you'll see, I have made peace with living fairly repulsively. So here we go. Let's take a walk. This, let's back this thing up. This is my living room, and actually I'll just kind of walk you in as if I was walking down the hallway. So you come into my living room, and stacked up here is a bunch of camp and stuff, and that'll make sense a little bit more to you in the future. But over here is the stack of my writing. My father passed away about 5 years ago, and I started writing lyrics, and that's about 2,000 songs that basically I wrote enough to say that I had written them and turned the page. So it's about 2,000 individual songs that are a half done at best. Really good words, but once I get to the point in something that I write that I feel like, that's kind of cool, then I turn the page and wait for the next thing to come. So another term you'll get used to hearing is it's time to start finishing something, and that stack of paper right there is something that needs to be finished. This is my couch that I scabbed off of a job site because when my ex was here a couple years ago, we had bought all new furniture and really kind of had a nice life going, and once again, because I didn't really appreciate it, we ended up having to sell our couch and our coffee table on Craigslist because we couldn't make the rent that month because I wasn't working. She was working, but I wasn't working. Pretty fucking proud of that. There's my ashtray. And my phone, which I'm waiting to hear back from my ex as we speak to find out if she's going to be coming over here this weekend. Because she's going to come over and we were going to try to make some sort of peace before I headed off on this journey that I'll fill you in on a little bit more in a minute. Here's my computer sitting on the floor. Usually it's kind of neatly stacked, but here's a computer that I bought off Craigslist because my ex and I actually kind of got in a fight one day, and she broke my laptop, I broke hers. She had walked by and we were arguing, and I think she kicked it closed or just slammed it closed with her hand and busted my laptop, so I jumped up and did the same thing and slammed hers closed and busted it. There's another stack of notebooks, which is, I call the B-roll from everything that I have in the other stack. I write every day, pretty much kind of all day, every day, whether it's texting messages to myself and coming back and putting them on paper later. But at the end of the month, when I fill up a notebook, I tear out everything that I think's worth of shit, work on it for a minute or two, and then put it in the other folder. And these are the ones that are the B-roll that, every page just has something written on them too, but nothing in there that's overly special. Here is a stack of garbage that, fast food and this, that, and the other thing that was sitting over here the other night, but I had to move all that stuff to make sure that I had a place to put my feet when I started going into this video. So instead of, putting it in the garbage like normal people do, I just picked it all up and moved it across the room and set it in another spot. And I know you don't need to be told, but it probably takes just about the same amount of energy to put it into a garbage can than it does to move it across the room. But I like to do things multiple times. So, and then there's a Wendy's wrapper from today. There's about a 1/4 ounce of weed sitting right there, marijuana. I think there's a pipe and couple of knives and shit for cleaning my pipe when I run out of pot. There is the film container and my laptop, and a knife set and a hatchet set and another K-bar knife for when I go into the hills, which is the journey that we're talking about going on. There's what I call my mama kitty. She's a little precious little girl that she's a tiny little cat, and the reason for that is because when she was about 3 months old, my ex and I were in the middle of an argument. She was sitting out on the back porch. I was in the house. We were arguing back and forth, and I came in and, in one of those fuck you kind of huffs, and slammed the door. And right as I slammed the door, the little girl, my mama kitty, was following me in, and I slammed her in the back door of our house and broke her leg. So yeah, ultimately I did that, yeah, so there's my baby girl. Big Dog's, he's down the hall right there, he's laying right there. That's my ex's cat. She left it here when she moved out, and she sent me a text after she got all packed up and says, I'm going to leave my cat with you because he's better off with you. And I don't know if living like this is better off than her, but I hope not. Here's my kitchen, and as you can see, I've got a weight bench in my kitchen. I have a tendency to, excuse me while I take a drag on my cigarette. I have a tendency to work out about every 2 weeks. I'll work out for a week straight, hardcore, twice a day, and I'll drop 10, 12 pounds in a week. And once I start looking good and feeling good, then I stop. And basically the conclusion I've come to is when I work out, it's because I want to look good. It's because I want people to think I'm fit and sexy and all that shit, but I don't do it because I want to live. I don't do it because I want to be healthy. My father died of lung cancer 4 years ago, and I'm smoking a cigarette. So what's that tell you? There's a cat litter box, but I don't know if you could tell, but the litter box itself is clean, but there's all sorts of shit laying around it, just, litter chunks, new litter, not shitty litter. There's an empty thing of cat food, but over here on the counter, every once in a while we'll just do this, which is about the most disgusting thing you could ever do. And then sitting there on the edge of the sink, which you will find is even grosser in a second, I just made a ham and cheese sandwich, and my big cat loves ham, so I line up the ham on the thing for him. He didn't eat it this time, which never happens, and I'm under the impression that it's probably because of this. That's basically just the place I throw shit when I walk by that I don't want to put away or do anything with. And, you know, fuck me. I mean, I live in a brand new place. I've got money. I am not a fucking pig. I care about the world. Here's my big cat. He's probably wondering why you want me to eat food out of that fucking sink. Obviously, it's not in the sink, but you know what I mean. And so, you know, I mean, the microwave, it's all cocked out in the corner from the corner where it was because I plugged something in a week ago and, you know, just left it there. Here's some neat little fake flowers that my ex put up on the thing, and as you can see, they're all falling down, but I don't really care. Oh, and no, if you look in the cupboards, there's nothing, because it's either in the sink or in the dishwasher, and when I do dishes, I never put them away. There's some peanut butter and jelly and some shit laying around. When I do dishes, I never put the dishes away. I just leave them in the dishwasher, and as I need them, I've learned how to rotate clean dishes and dirty dishes off the top and bottom shelf without the dirty dishes getting the clean dishes dirty. Yeah, that's that cupboard. And then we go over here to this cupboard, and we've got, you know, all sorts of empty cereal boxes and all sorts of shit. I have a tendency to buy a lot of cereal and then buy a gallon of milk, and I'll be out of the gallon of milk in 2 or 3 days, and we'll have a shitload of cereal left, but we'll not go buy more milk. Here's my my ghetto closet. That's everything that that's everything you eat because you're hungry, not because you want food. You know, mac and cheese, soups, spaghetti sauces, chili, shit like that. And that cupboard basically just gets full and full and full. And quite honestly, half the shit in there people have probably given me because I've played the I'm broke, I'm hungry, fucking I'm a loser game. And people give me food, which is something I never thought I would experience because I never really planned on being here. There's some shit laying in the middle of the floor. I'm going to the bathroom, and it's basically, you know, take your underwear off, get in the shower, leave them right where they are. That over there is a couple socks. On the counter here, we got the we got the toothbrush in the sink because it's just way too hard to put it all the way up there. You know, as you can see, I shave, I use cologne, I keep myself. Oh, I guess I should do this. I keep myself. How can I do this? I keep myself pretty presentable. I mean, I'm a 37-year-old balding fucking old man, but I'm not, you know, I'm not fat and ugly and nasty, and you wouldn't think that that my life would be like this. We go down the hall here, and here is all the shoes stacked up in the hallway. Once again, walk in the door, kick them off, and that's that. Here's everything, all the contents of my wallet. My cat, the big guy, this one right here, they're both just following me around. The big guy, he got out a couple of weeks ago, and now he got out, he realizes that it's kind of cool out there, so he'll hang from the doorknob, and at night, sometimes it drives me nuts, and I've just learned to just kind of toss something down the hall, and as you can see, it's a corner, so I can't throw anything at him. I'm just trying to make a noise to get him to stop hanging on the freaking, hanging on the doorknob. Oh, and mind you, as we're doing this, I'm smoking that cigarette, and I'm flicking the ashes on the floor. I'm not, oh, that light's been out for a while. I'm flicking the ashes on the floor. I'm not, you know, hitting an ashtray or anything like that. I'm just flicking them on the floor, which is genius. Okay, here's the bedroom. Basically, it's probably exactly like you would assume. There's a towel that I laid out, just give it a chance to dry. Could have thrown it up on the rod, on the hanger, on the curtain, but nah, that'd be too easy. Got a couple cats here still following me around. Here's my bed. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? I mean, really, it looks like an Oprah episode from a hoarder or something like that. Here's a bag. I had a job that was out of town this last couple of weeks, and I go for like 2 or 3 days at a time, come home, take my bag, and obviously just toss everything everywhere. There's empty cigarette packs on my bed. Once again, I smoke in the house. There's a pencil that I took from the library accidentally and used it to clean my pipe with the other day. You know, here's just an embarrassing mess. It's my end table, more notebooks over there, more journals, more shit like that. I write every day. There's some butterflies that my ex put on the above the bed. Her and I made that bed. When we met, I kind of, in my mind, thought it would be sweet and cute if, you know, if she was the end-all be-all and the love of my life, I should. We didn't have a bed, and I figured I'd build a bed, and you know, I just thought it'd be a neat story that if someday we ever made a baby in our bed that we made, it would be a really neat story. So I think I have a tendency to do things for the story instead of because I'm genuine. So that's basically it. Here's some shit stacked up. That red cot is my mother's. I borrowed it from her about a year and a half ago when I sold my couch, and it never went back. Here is a little kid's playhouse that I tried to put my little girl cat in for the month or so that she was in a cast when she got slammed in the door. Actually, she didn't get slammed in the door when I slammed her in the door. Once again, I obviously didn't do that on purpose, but that's the story. So, you know, you can see the carpet, it's all thrashed. I mean, it's not like repulsive, and if something big falls on it, I clean it up. But I only clean up my house when people are coming. And trust me, I can get it smelling good and looking good in 2 hours. But I don't really do a whole lot of that. So I'm going to sit down again and kind of close this. I just wanted to, actually, part of the reason why I'm doing this is I'm still waiting to find out if my ex is going to come over tomorrow, and not come over. She's about 400 miles away in Lewiston, Idaho, and she was supposed to be heading over this way for the weekend, hang out with me, and then I'm taking off on my journey at the end of next week. So I don't know if she's coming, but whether she is or isn't, I probably ought to clean up this mess. So I wanted to kind of document how I live every day, and then, I don't know, maybe I'll do a little video of what the place looks like when I'm done. So I'm going to set this down and talk a little bit more, and we'll go from there. Okay. So, sorry, it's just kind of a piece of shit, but alright, here we go. Probably ought to smoke another cigarette. So basically what I'm doing is not because I got evicted, or not because I ran out of money, or not because I want to run away from home, or not because I have any warrants for my arrest or anything like that, not because I have drug dealers chasing me. I am going to be selling everything I own and taking off into the woods for a minimum of 3 months is what I'm hoping for. I've got a friend of mine who is going to take me up, drop me off. I'll set up camp, and he'll come back every 2 weeks to re-provision me, you know, canned foods and stuff like that. But and I think the bottom line, or the best way I could describe it, is there's been a number of points in my life where I really wasn't sure if I wanted to live, or never really been suicidal. I would never do that, but never really got down to living, and never really. Just not a real big zest for life. And coming out of my childhood, I had a lot of issues from there that I had to deal with, and instead of dealing with those, I've run and hid many times before, and just found another thing to distract me, and another thing to make me feel like I was doing something, or feel like I was okay. I'd, you know, start a project, close a project. My life has always been something big coming up, or getting over something big. Some big huge success coming up, or some big failure that just happened. And I'm just really sick of living in that cycle, and I read a lot of things about it. For instance, you know, can't stop from crying, feel like I'm dying, you think that I'm lying, I'm not. I beg and I borrow, I steal my tomorrows, my heart filled with sorrow, this cycle has got to stop. Or I don't want to die, but I don't really care to live. I got so much more inside, I got so much more to give. Or things like the path to heaven is paved in sin. You got to go through hell before they let you in. So you might as well live, you might as well laugh, you might as well love with all you have, because you don't know when it all could end, and not living life is the greatest sin. I think for me, because I spent so much time alone, and I spent so much time writing, and I spent so much time buried in my mess, that it's really kind of been a curse. But I'm hugely optimistic, I'm hugely positive, I'm very creative, I'm very sincere, I've got a huge heart. You know, the old dolphins make me cry from Hootie and the Blowfish. Yeah, I can understand that line, because the dolphins would make me cry too. But I've often said having all the answers but toiling over the question. And basically what that means is I know the problems and the solutions with my life. I know where the issues came from. I know how I got where I'm at. I know how to get out of where I am at. And I am just having a very difficult time figuring out where the sidewalk ends and the road begins, and where their life ends and my life starts, and where you come from is not who you are. And we'll talk about it a lot more, but you know, I had a funky childhood. I had a real crazy childhood, but it wasn't physically or sexually abusive. It was just lots of little crazy, all added up into one. And I could tell some stories that would scare the hell out of you, and I could tell some stories and you'd say, you know what, everybody grew up like that. So I've had a tendency to be accused of blaming my family or my parents for the way that I am, and I have done my best to try to defend and explain that I'm not blaming them, but in order to figure out who and how I am, I've got to make sense as to where I came from. And when you've come out of an environment like that that isn't exactly healthy and normal, it has a tendency to affect you. So I know all of those things, and I've basically buried myself under the story or the excuse or the reason, and it's made me into a liar. It's made me into a manipulator. I don't do anything unless it benefits me, but I will do something for you that will benefit you, but I will only do it so people notice and see me doing it. I guess I'm going to close this because I got to clean up this house, but I guess the point is that I'm going into the woods for 3 months to look in my soul. And I know it sounds trite, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking into my soul. I'm not really sure that I want to continue with my life. Once again, not that I'm suicidal, but do I just, you know, stop living like this and go move under a bridge? Because that's really the next step for me, because I've perfected hitting bottom and digging deeper. And, you know, one of the lines from one of my things is, I've hit bottom and I kept digging. I just don't understand why it still hurts, and I'm still hurting. It's time to be a man. I wrote that 10 years ago, and I'm just at that point in life where I'm not really sure that I want to continue. And if I do, I can't see it happening under the current set of circumstances. So in my twisted little mind, in my outside-of-the-box personality, I've come to the realization that the best way to figure out that if you want to survive and if you want to live is to put yourself in a survival situation and put yourself in a situation where you have to fight for your life. So yeah, I'm going up into the woods with some necessities and you know, things like stoves and heaters and food and, you know, shelter and stuff like that. But ultimately I'm going into a part of the country that nobody but Bigfoot and mountain lions and Sasquatch. I guess Sasquatch is the same as Bigfoot. But I'm going into a part of the country where anything can happen, and you're either going to get an encounter with a bear, which really is not that common, but black bear or a cougar is fairly a reasonable possibility. Lots of bobcats, but I think I can take one of those little sons of bitches. Or really you're left with tweakers, and that's, I think honestly, that's probably my biggest concern without being out in the middle of nowhere is, you know, a couple of tweakers or a couple of guys growing pot up there in the woods encounter me and get all scared that I'm going to tell somebody or some shit like that and want to mess with me or even kill me. But so it's not, you know, Bear Grylls goes into the woods with a pocket knife and a freaking thing of duct tape or MacGyver, but it's me going into the woods with no way of contacting the outside world, ultimately fending for myself. If I get hurt, oh, my cigarette went out. If I get hurt, there's really no way to contact anybody or tell anybody or get help. Probably a minimum of 5 or so miles away from, and probably more like 20 miles away from being able to even locate anybody. So if I broke a leg or something like that, I'd probably be dragging myself down a gravel road until, you know, until I was possibly dead. So once again, obviously I'm at wit's end. I've tried AA meetings. I've been to treatment numerous times in my career, in my life. You know, I've done the treatment thing, done it for all the wrong reasons, never did it for when I was ready, and the time that I was ready, the people around me weren't around and weren't ready to help me, and I, instead of doing what was right for myself, I spited them and said fuck you and put everything I owned in a motorhome and took off. So I've tried a lot of the conventional things to the best of my ability, but when you live outside of the box as long as I have, really the only solution, and the solution has to fit the situation. And right now, the punishment fits the crime, and the solution does fit. Mama, no. The the situation is dire. Once again, I'm not going to put a bullet in my head. No. See how I did that? Just throw something down the hall and he'll stop me on. But you know, there's no chance, and the scenario is not set up that I go out there and if I can't survive, I can take my own life. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not sure that I really care about much of anything. So I want to put myself in a quiet place. I want to go inside myself. I want to deal with some of the things in my life that I've been hiding from the last 20 years. I want to try to wean myself off the cigarettes and the marijuana. I want to find myself, and I want to be proud of who I am. I want to be able to be the person that's inside of me. I listen to a lot of country music, and I want to be a good man. I want to do what I should, man. I want to love the way that I feel. I need to make peace with some of the past, and I need to go and put myself in a survival situation, or put myself in a life or death situation, because if I took the video camera around last week, you would have probably realized that I was just living a slow death, and it was just a matter of time before my habits or my choices caught up with me and I could lose my life. And I don't want to do that. So as outside of the box as this is, and as crazy, quite honestly, as this is, I can assure you that the life I've been living is crazier. And so with that said, I'm heading off into the woods, and I do look at it as if I'm fighting for my life. And I hope to find something out there, something inside of me, something that's louder than the pain and the crap that was put on me, and the pain and the crap that was put on myself, because Lord knows we're both responsible. So there comes a time in every man's life when he's got to make his own way. Put the pain in the past and make the best out of each and every day. It wasn't your fault what they did to you, and we both know they didn't do what they should have done, and it sucks, my son, but now it's up to you. And that's where I'm at, that's where I stand, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to put the pain in the past, and it's up to me. So I hope you, in a crazy way, and I don't care if it's for a freakish science project to see what happens next, I hope that someday, if this ever makes it public, that people will, at the very least, respect what I'm trying to do. I know it's not something that most people would do. Hell, probably nobody would do this, but this is a feeble attempt at saving my own life. And I've spent a long time slowly killing myself, and I don't want to do that anymore. So if you feel like watching the Freak Show, tune in Tokyo. Alright, much love. Me. Oh, by the way, it is April 22nd, 2010, and it's about 7 o'clock at night, and I'm going to turn this off and tidy up my house and do some laundry because I got a job to do tomorrow. So, much love.